YouTube, how the heck you doing? This is Corey here with Watcher of Realms. We're back with another one. This is VOD review. We went against Kiss the Watchers again. We've gone against this guild like maybe 6 times over these last 2 seasons. So I feel bad. Like, genuinely speaking, I feel bad. Because they just always seem to go against us and then they always lose. And then I just feel bad. I don't think that's fair. But it's a win, right? So let's just go ahead and look at the attacks. We had a decent amount of success. So we go ahead and attack this team. I actually go ahead and re-attack this team later on. I wanted to see if swarming it was going to work because I was just kind of curious, right? So what I do, let's kind of slow it down. I see Wukong, so I know 2 things, right? He's going to do a lot of single target damage, and I'm going to assume this is a 1 Wukong, so he's probably going to go ahead and have a revive as well. So I drop the tank, and then I wait a second. The main purpose of dropping the tank is I want to go ahead and trigger Wukong's ult. I want to see how much damage he does. And second, I want to go ahead and trigger Ajax. So that's why I waited as long as I did. There we go. So Wukong has ulted. Ajax has also ulted. The second tank is up. And we're starting to swarm here. Now, in my head at the time, I was thinking this could very well work. But it really depends on RNG from Hotset, stuns from Torador, and then, honestly, just RNG with the whole Nightmare team and how much damage they put out. So, Hotset triggers her ult here. The mobs are kind of getting bounced between Wukong and Torador. Torador is honestly inflicting a lot of stuns as well. I drop the dogs. My hope is that I've filled up the block with the spawns from the Necros. So that does work. That is successful. However, the units are getting stunned and kind of knocked backwards to Torador. So that's where this kind of fails, right? They kind of just get juggled. And at that point, it's GG, right? All the units are getting juggled. There's no way to win this. So I'm pretty sure I just go ahead and surrender this one, right? So my suspicion was confirmed. Swarming it does not work. Nightmare units, just way too much RNG involved. The fact that they can potentially double hit, and that will ruin the run. So it happens. I go ahead and attack this Igris team. Similarly, right? Igris is one of those units where, especially when you pair her with Dahlia, there's a lot of variance, right? So Dahlia is kind of helpful because they give additional block to Regulus here because of Dahlia, right? So block +1. And then here we go, right? My axes basically just get deleted super quick. They proc Lily ult, but they don't really get a chance to go ahead and do another set of damage. And that's the unlucky part, right? So I go ahead, I drop Maw, and then I'm going to drop the Fool. And the real hope is that Maw is able to go ahead and kill Regulus twice, right? Because I'm going to need him to die via his passive, Lily, and then a final time, right? So we drop Maw, and then we drop the Fool, all standard. We're going to wait for 6 cost and then drop axes, and the hope is that Maw plus the axes will go ahead and take out Regulus. So at this point, Regulus passive was procced. So that's good. But the axes die way too quickly. Axes are gone, so this run is pretty much GG, right? I'll kind of run it through. But what Dahlia does is she did so much damage and then also provided the additional slow through her blossoms that the units weren't really able to be fully effective. So GG's on that. And here we go. I think after this next 2, we start to actually get some luck. Even though I think I messed up on one of them. Here we go. This is the Esoteric team. Decently high BP. It was just a case of, and you'll see it, Ymrit just becomes raid boss, and then Boreas does as well. So we drop the Necro, pretty usual. Then we go ahead and drop the Fool. The Necro, or not Necro, the Pharaoh Guard is going to tank pretty well, honestly speaking. Like, once again, whenever it's Esoteric teams, doing this is usually never going to do you any wrong. Right? They just don't die. They just tank forever. And then the Necro and the Healer are doing their jobs. Bam. Ymrit has been triggered, and then Anora has been triggered. So in this case, right, they're going to do a pretty sizable chunk of damage. My tanks are surviving easily, which is the good part. It's just the Necro Swarm is just instantly getting deleted. And interestingly enough, how he has the team kind of built is almost right after Boreas ults, they had their ults up. Right after they finish their ults, Boreas is back up, right? So Boreas is just chunking these units down, and he's negating the effectiveness of the healers because of that anti-heal. So they're not even healing anything at this point. I wait for the tank cost, double dogs. Now the hope is that they're able to survive and actually take out the units, but timing-wise, Anora has ult now. And Anora instantly kills all the dogs. That was GG, right? The only thing to do differently potentially is stagger the dogs. That could have possibly worked. But yeah, it was just a little bit of an unlucky sequence of how quickly the ults were kind of one's down, one's up, one's up, one's down. So GG's on that. But now we actually start to go ahead and get a little bit of success. So this is a similar Esoteric team, just lower BP. So this is a super easy swarm. And this is how, like, kind of confirms the strat works. It's just his Anora and Ymrit were just raid bosses. So healer, or not healer, the Fool and then the Feral Guard. Feral Guard is going to attack for 0 damage, but live for an eternity. And now we can go ahead and begin setting up the swarm. I wait a little bit because I want to just go ahead and proc these ults. Also because I'm very hyper paranoid about just how much damage these two units in conjunction, like when they're paired together, can do. So we drop the healer and the Necro. Trigger all the ults here. And what should happen is Boreas will eventually get his ult pretty quickly. But these units should honestly survive, because they won't be within the full range of effectiveness, because Ymrit and Anora are over there, hitting like this tile. So see, they're not getting hit by Ymrit yet. They're mainly just stuck up by Boreas. And then what we do is we drop the dogs, right? Because at this point, all my units have reached this threshold. They're going to survive. Dogs should be right here. It doesn't even matter if they're getting slowed. Anora doesn't have ult. Ymrit doesn't have ult. My main concern is that Anora is about to have ult. And Ymrit does as well. So they go ahead and hit. That's fine. I tank the initial impact. And my dogs and skeletons should show up right about now. Dog 1, tank, skeletons, feeding through, right? So Anora doesn't do enough damage at this point to really end the run. And thankfully, my dogs were able to tank her initial hits, which is kind of a benefit for me, right? So that's why the run works. And then I believe I double attack it just because why not, right? So let's run it again, because I think the second run was even cleaner. Cool. I'll just run this at 3x speed. There we go. So, pretty simple order. Esoteric teams are standard. Feral Guard, the Fool, into another Feral Guard. Right about now. Into Necro Healer. Into a second set of Necro Healer at 8 cost. There we go. And then wait a second for the ults. Usually you could drop dogs now, but I wait a second. Dogs at 10 cost, and it should be GG. That run was much cleaner. Much cleaner. So, pretty simple. I love Esoteric teams because they're strong, but it really is just the only team in this map that is like vulnerable to really swarming. So here we go. I think I trolled this one. And Moonton, if you're watching this, which you probably aren't, please change one of the most important settings in this game. Whenever you click, and I'm doing it intentionally, right? Whenever you go ahead and click a unit, this happens. It blocks the timer. We have all this dead space over here. All this dead space over here. Why not move this so that we can actually see the timer? Even if I click like Hotsit, it blocks the timer. So we're just running it down. I use the dogs to trigger, I use the dogs to go ahead and trigger Silas. Reason being is I know for a fact if I drop my Knight of Destruction and Silas uses his ult, my Knight of Destruction is dead. Gone. 0 to 100 so fast. So I want to go ahead and force Silas to go ahead and ult. That way I can actually do the run. Also because if the Knight of Destruction dies, the axes and the Scalekin, the healer, right, are not going to be able to do the proper setup that I need in order to actually win this. So I force Silas ult with my dogs. Then I run it down. Axes and healer. This is a standard way to take out the Nightmare Comb, right? So they will go ahead and proc Torador's passive now. So all of that is perfect, right? No issues with that whatsoever. Silas is about to ult. Unfortunately, my Knight of Destruction was tanky enough, so he gets to waste Silas ult for me. I dropped the second Knight of Destruction now. Wait for the 8 or 9 cost. Axes healer. Run it down. At this point, because I know that I was able to proc Torador's passive earlier, I will be able to kill him successfully on this second go around without really any issues. So we get here, and Torador should die any second now. Goodbye. I proc Hotsit ult. Now this is what I mean by they need to change this. Because in the live run, here's what happened. I'll drop a tank. I'll drop the second tank. Look at the timer, right? Now from this point onward, I'm waiting out for Hotsit ult. I'm also kind of paranoid about arrogance. Now realistically speaking, I should have probably just gone ahead and dropped my dogs now. Right? But I was also waiting out arrogance ult. I had it like this. So as you can see, it's kind of that little red flashing thing. I'm not going to notice that because it's being blocked by the actual unit. I dropped the dogs after the fact, and that's what happens. Right? So as you can imagine, I was sitting there like, I just trolled that. So I go ahead and attack it again because I'm like, no, I want those points. So wait, this is the Esoteric team. Let me go ahead and grab the right team. Let's leave this one. Quit battle. There we go. Yeah. So we rechow it because I'm not about to just give up free points and no. So we go ahead and rechow. So dogs, trigger Silas ult. Bam. Everything perfect. Not a destruction. Wait for the 9 costs. Drop the axes and the healer. I actually dropped my axes earlier because I'm stupid and I thought that it was 9 costs and it was really 8 costs. So I messed up there, but it doesn't matter. Torador down. Knight of Destruction lives long enough to go ahead and proc Silas ult. Now here's what I should have done, right? And now that I had done the first run, I was pretty confident in just not messing up the second one. So Knight of Destruction, axes healer. All this looks good. I know Torador is going to die. So what I do is I just say, well, my dogs can probably go ahead and tank Hotsit ult anyways. Like, it's not that big of a deal for me. He can probably tank it. But this is where they get horrible RNG in my opinion, right? The first one, they probably got good RNG. This one, they got bad RNG. Because look, Arrogance actually goes ahead and dies because I have a Knight of destruction and an axe that survived. So at this point, it was GG. But either way, if it hadn't been, Silas ult was already procced. Tank, and then I'm just going to have my tanks trigger Hotset ult, and then I'm just going to run it down with dogs the second they trigger her. And so, there we go. Hotset's going to go ahead ult, and my dogs are just going to eat it. No issue whatsoever. That's GG. So, range true, whenever you're attacking a Nightmare comp, just kind of kill it. It just seems to be the most effective way. It very rarely fails. And then we have the final attack, which is this one. Again, another Wukong team. Now, I believe, like, this might be my own headcanon, right? I could be super wrong. But I feel like there must be some weird I'm assuming his is A1. That's an assumption. But there seems to be a weird interaction between Carnelian, Torador, and Wukong. Because I feel like I never notice, and I could be wrong, maybe I'm just super killing Torador, right? But I feel like I never see Wukong revive the unit. And if you're using a Wukong that's not at least A1, like, why are you even using them, right? So, healer, axes. They're going to go ahead and proc Torador's passive. That's their job. Now, I will say they're actually really close to not being able to do it here, because they just get stunned up from what I remember. There we go. So they go ahead and proc it. Then they die shortly after, right? Wukong takes care of them. Ajax, he's going to go ahead and ult this Night of Destruction, but Night of Destructions are pretty tanky when it comes to Magic Day. Honestly speaking, I feel like the Night of Destruction has different stats than what the game says, because I swear to God, like, they tank. Like, they just eat damage. It's insane. But let's run it down. I can also tell that the Wukong's in Soulbound Arcana, because that ult did, or maybe he just got lucky with Torador passive, but man, that ult did damage. So just kind of run it down at this point, right? We have the Knights dead, we have the Axes dead. We just go ahead and drop Tank 1 and Tank 2, right? Because Wukong's only going to have 2 block. Unless he was in Lunacy Advisor, then he would have 3 block, but why would you do that, right? We wait for the 10 cost, and we just run it down, right? So let's just speed this up. Hotset ult is going to get triggered. Also, at this point, I stopped like clicking the dogs. I was like, let me just run it. I don't want to miss the time like the last one. So I let the dogs loose. They go through. 2 of them. The next set, they also run through. But interestingly enough, this tank right here, or I think it was the tank, he just survived with like 1 HP for like 20 years. So shout out to that tank. He survived. He won the war. All right. He gets to go to his wife and kids. But anyways, those are the attacks. Once again, Nightmare comps, they're just easy to beat. Esoteric teams, they're pretty easy to beat too. Genuinely speaking, it's kind of just like, does Ymrit blow your like units out the water? Does Anora do it? Or does Boreas do it? And if not, then it's the easiest win, right? So, Igris teams, yeah, they're tricky. You can just kill them, but Dahlia kind of makes it annoying. Anyways, that's all there is. See ya.